not your job to do the convincing. It's your job to identify the convincers and facilitate the relationship. If you can do that, you'll do all the convincing you want.
Welcome back to the show. My name is Alex Winter, and today we are talking about how to convince your boss that it's time to go into a new marketing direction. And I have Marcus Sheridan, author of They Ask You Answer, keynote speaker, partner here at Impact, just an expert when it comes to bridging these gaps. Marcus, it's great to have you on the show again. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Alex. And this is one of those subjects, man. I'm so glad we're talking about it because it's a big problem.
It is a big problem. It really is. And I feel like a lot of times people don't address the fact that the struggle is real for a CMO or for people that maybe aren't on the leadership team, that they have to bridge that gap and try to get people to buy in and try to get their CEO or their boss to understand why this is important to do. So talk about what that might feel like for somebody that's trying to bring this up in this organization and they just keep hitting that wall.
Yeah, I would say over the course of now 12, 13 years of writing about all this marketing stuff, one of the most common emails I get, Alex, is from marketers around the world that are saying, I believe in this stuff, Marcus, but I just can't get my team to catch the same vision. And it goes back to a phrase that I really like to use because it's very analogous to the marketer's dilemma. And that is, you can be a prophet to the world, but nobody will listen to you in your hometown. And so, in other words, you could be literally the smartest marketer in the world. You have great ideas, and they could actually work incredibly well. They might even save the company, or they might cause the company to grow 10, 100x. But because you're there, the CEO or the sales leader or whomever it is, the COO, isn't just giving you the credence, that respect that you deserve. It's not necessarily a knock on you at all. It's very, very human. It's no different, Alex, than the fact that, here in my house, I might give my kids some advice. They're like, that's just dad. Whereas I sometimes I want to say, people pay me a lot of money to give them advice. But see, I'm here in the home. They don't want to take it. It's the law of familiarity, right? And so we all deal with that to a certain degree. I deal with it at Impact even, with our own team. So it happens all the time. So how do we overcome this profit to the world issue, this marketer's dilemma? Well, I think there's a few things that we got to do. First of all, as marketers, we have to stop talking like marketers. We got to stop sounding like marketers. We have to learn to speak the language of leadership and the language of sales. I watch these marketers and they try to pitch their team and they're using all these acronyms. I'm like, what are you thinking? There's a reason why when you see me speak to a group of CEOs that I'm not using acronyms. I don't even say phrases like content marketing. I say things like, listen, they ask, you answer, okay? That's how it works. You see, that's really, really simple to understand. And so the way marketers have to start to think is, okay, my success within my career as a marketer will literally rise and fall on my ability to help my team catch my vision, to communicate more clearly. So the first tip I want to have for you is you need to stop sounding like a marketer. Now, second.
I love that. I just have to jump in real quick. I love that because I feel like that happens a lot. And I even do that when you're presenting. You want to use big words and like the lingo, industry lingo, and all the acronyms so that you sound like an expert. And it does make you sound like an expert, but it also, people may not know what the heck you're talking about, right? So how do you meet people where they are and keep it
distances your audience from you. You see, the great communicators, when they're trying to persuade someone of something, the ideal outcome is the person they're trying to persuade at the end says, oh my goodness, this is so obvious. Why are we not doing this? In fact, maybe they even think it's their idea. That's even better, right? And so my whole goal when I'm giving a presentation, let's say on They Ask You Answer, which is a whole lot of marketing stuff, right? It's a lot of marketing strategy, a lot of business growth strategy. My whole goal is the CEO looks over to their team members and he or she says, what? This is so obvious. Why are we not doing this? And it's funny, I'll go and I'll teach a workshop to a team, or I'll give a keynote somewhere, and the marketer person comes to me and says, I am so frustrated right now. Like what you just said, I've been saying for 5 years, but yet now suddenly it's like this apparition, like, oh, it's a revelation. Look what this pool guy said. And I have to tell him, hey, it's not your fault. You can be a prophet to the world, but nobody listens to you in your hometown, right?
Wow, that's so
And
profound.
so we got to change the way that we speak, the way that we communicate. Now, let me just say this, by the way, too, Alex, because you mentioned something really important. Now, for very small companies, oftentimes that first marketer doesn't really have a seat. But as you grow, one of the things that you should be looking for, especially as a marketing leader, is you should be asking, do I have a seat at the table? Within the leadership team, do I have a seat at the table? And if you're a marketing leader of your organization and you don't have a seat at the table, then I would choose a different organization. Wow. I really would. Wow. Because your whole life you're going to spend just spinning your wheels and not making the impact that you need. Where you're going to be able to help people catch your vision and make very important decisions is by being in that very important leadership team meeting. If you as a marketer aren't there, then I'm out.
That's huge.
I'm not even going to play that game.
No, that's huge. Okay? That's a huge takeaway.
You're fighting an uphill battle.
So strategically, it's like you really want that person, and it's not just for that marketing person, it's for the company as a whole. It's like you really need that perspective to have those conversations so that you can educate, you can raise that awareness, and you can deep dive and implement some of these things that really need to happen and bridge those gaps.
Yeah, because here's the truth of it. Rarely ever does a marketing initiative go upstream in an organization. Does it boil up?
Okay.
It usually hits walls somewhere. Whereas if you, as the head of marketing, let's say, can communicate directly with the CEO, the COO, the head of sales, now all of a sudden there's no breaks in communication there. Mm-hmm. And they're able to now send it down to the rest of the team. Downstream is the key if you want to have marketing buy-in. There are exceptions to this, but that is the idea. Now, along with that, Alex, let me say like tip number 2 to getting that buy-in in your organization. And that is, I will attend these conferences as a speaker, right? And I'll ask the audience, how many of you are, let's say it's a marketing conference, like Inbound, let's say, okay? Like how many of you are marketers within your team? Like 80% of the audience raises their hand.
Yep.
And what's interesting is, I'll say, and how many of you have your head of sales or your CEO or your COO with you here today at this event? And then almost everyone puts their hand down.
No kidding. Wow.
You see, wow. I literally tell folks, here's what I want you to do as a marketer, and this will shake up your organization big time. I want you to go into your leadership team or your CEO or COO. I want you to say, what's my education event budget this year? They might say, oh, you're allowed to go to 2 events or whatever, 10,000, whatever they say. And say, okay, well, I want to give my budget to you. And they're going to say, what? Yes, I want you to go in my place. And they're going to say, what? Why? And then you're going to say, because it's dramatically more important that you buy into these things than I do, because I'm already drinking the Kool-Aid.
Wow.
But you need to drink the Kool-Aid. And the only way you're going to drink the Kool-Aid is to put yourself in a position to hear from some of these thought leaders like the Marcuses of the world, so that you can say, hey, why are we not doing this? They ask you answer thing, or why are we not doing such and such initiative, right? That's the idea. Now, that's shocking to a leader of an organization when they hear that, when somebody's saying, hey, I want you to go in my stead. That's powerful. And they're probably going to say, you know what? because you said this, I'm going to go with you. And now, oh my goodness, that's going to be the best event of your life, because they're going to be sitting with you in that audience. They're going to be nudging you on the shoulder. Did you hear that? Why are we not doing? Well, can we do that? And the whole time you're just going to be smiling. So that's the next thing.
Well, and they're also hearing things
Now,
that are being reinforced that aren't coming from within the organization, that aren't coming from you. They're hearing it from other experts. So as soon as you start to get that perspective, it shifts the tide. And then you presenting it to your boss that way really flip. That's genius. I love that angle that you could really implement immediately.
changes the profit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
Now the profit is an out of towner. And now we're cooking with gas.
Cooking with gas. Yeah.
Now let's do one more. Let's do one more tip here that I've seen work time and time again.
Sure.
So sometimes what happens when somebody hears me speak, Alex, and I'm sure it happens with other speakers or whatever. So marketer hears me speak, gets excited. It's like, man, I can't wait to take this back to the office. And we already talked about what happens. They get back to the office, and then everyone wants to rain on the parade because they weren't there. They weren't in the room. They're not going to get it. And so the next thing that you can do is, and I'm going to give you the step-by-step here, right? Because do it like this. I don't want you to mess it up. I want you to get a copy of They Ask You Answer, or whatever book it is that you are trying to get them to believe the teachings of. I want you to go to your CEO, head of sale, whatever. I want you to say to that person, I think this book could be very important. Would you be willing to read it? They're going to say, well, yeah, but what's it about? Well, it's about our success as a company, but I don't want to give you any more details. Would you be willing to read it? I feel like it's very important. Now the person's going to say, well, I mean, if you believe it's that important, yes, I'd be willing to read it. Great. Can we have a conversation about what you read in 2 weeks? Can we set up a meeting right now on our calendars? Now all of a sudden, they're accountable. They're responsible to it. And once you have that meeting, you sit down with them, and then you say, tell me what you thought. You see, the mistake everyone makes, Alex, is they come with this book out. This book is great. You got to read this book. I'm telling you. Can you read this book? This book's great. Everybody needs to read this book. And then you say, here's what it tells us. It tells us we should start talking about cost and price on our website. It tells us that we should talk about our competitors and that we should compare stuff. And like suddenly the person's like, whoa. Because you see, they don't know the foundational psychological elements that are taught, let's say in this case, in They Ask You Answer. You see, I wrote They Ask You Answer for the hard-headed CEO. I didn't write it for the marketer.
Right.
And so the way that it's written is there's a science to the buildup to where I'm eliminating concerns. And by the end of each principle, they're like, yeah, he's right. It's crazy. Of course we can do this. Of course we should do this. Right. And so getting folks to read the book is absolutely fundamental. And again, this applies to anything that if you're looking to implement EOS within your organization, have your team, have that leader read EOS, and then have a conversation about it. But don't teach them the book and then have them read the book. That is the mistake that we see made all the time.
That's huge. Yeah, because you're throwing too much at them. You have to get that buy-in. You have to create that intrigue to get them to want to be curious to read this thing and let them self-discover, because self-discovery is way more powerful than just telling somebody something, right?
Word. That's what it's all about. And that is how we counteract the whole profit to the world, right? Is you allow that person to have that self-discovery. And if they discover it for themselves, now they're going to own it. And there's a very good chance they'll do something with it. But if they felt like it was forced on them, even if they liked the idea, but it wasn't their idea, once again, like if they read the book and you say, so what'd you think? Oh my goodness. I mean, I think this is amazing. All right, tell me, what do you think we should do? And now all of a sudden they're like, I think we should do this. I think we should do this. I think we should do this. And now the marketer, instead of doing the pitch, is the one receiving the pitch. And the marketer can say, I think you're right. I think you're right. And that's what we all want to hear. That's what we want to hear from friends. That's what we want to hear from family, is the approval. You're right. You did well. This is good. Great idea.
Absolutely. And ultimately, it's going to help the organization. It's going to help the company grow and scale and achieve the things that leadership and that your boss wants to achieve. So it's really helping paint that picture. There was some incredible advice you gave in there. Just to see the other end of the spectrum, what happens to a marketer or somebody that doesn't approach this correctly and that doesn't get the buy-in? Where could this go in a negative way potentially? And why
Here's
is this
where the story gets sad.
Yeah, it's so important to do this correctly.
Yeah, this is the sad part of the story for sure here, Alex. We've seen this a lot too. I've seen many, many marketers feel handcuffed, feel like they just couldn't do that which they needed to do. And I'm going to be very, very honest here. The best comparison I could make, folks that are listening to this right now, is just a lot of folks listening to this right now they feel like a stallion. Think about a stallion. What's a stallion meant to do? They're meant to run.
Run, baby. Yep.
What's a marketer meant to do? They're meant to create. What happens if you put a stallion in a fenced-in area and don't allow them to run? Well, they do one of two things. Literally, they do one of two things. Either A, they die. Seriously.
Whoa.
Or B, they jump the fence. They jump the fence.
No kidding.
If you're listening to this right now and you try the things that we've taught you today, because don't just jump the fence without trying what we've taught you today. But if you clearly see that they're never going to catch the vision, that they're going to not value marketing, they're not going to value trust, transparency, etc. They're not going to value the department, that it's always just going to be an uphill, just slog. Well, then it might be time for you to jump the fence. That's reality. Because you're an artist and you're meant to create art. You're meant to run. So go run.
I love that. I absolutely love that. So I think in closing, just because we really have covered a lot of ground here, what's like the one thing that you would tell a marketer struggling in the organization to get that buy-in? Like, what's one thing that they can take that first step and start to embark on this journey and get the buy-in that they need and have some of these wins that are going to help them feel more confident and champion these ideas in their organization?
It's not your job to do the convincing. It's your job to identify the convincers and facilitate the relationship. If you can do that, you'll do all the convincing you want.
Wow. Well said. Expert advice from an amazing marketer, an amazing business person. Marcus, thank you so much for your time. If you can, just real quick, take a look at the camera. Let people know where they can get in touch with you if they have any follow-up questions or want to learn more about how they can empower their organization to adopt some of these really great ideas that you presented today.
Yeah, well, you can always find me on the LinkedIn because I'm there and I'm pretty dang good. And you can reach out, M. Sheridan at impactplus.com. But hopefully you found this valuable because this stuff matters and the conversation matters. And so I really enjoy this, Alex. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you as well. And we'll definitely have you back on the show again. I can't wait to talk with you further.